I would like to start the 6th edition of the Caring a School virtual roundtable event. We have various panelists that do impact work in different areas. Impact for nature, ecosystems, impact for equality, and using all different type of techniques, tools, methods, networks, communication, and indigenous wisdom, securing life on Earth for humans and animals alike, I would say. For those who are new to the Caring a School event, we typically start with a welcoming where I introduce the panelists. Afterwards, of course, the panelists have a chance to introduce themselves and to comment on the most important issues and thoughts that keep them busy in this very moment. Then we will have a shared roundtable discussion where we involve the audience. So every one of you, please feel invited to ask questions. If you can be rather short in your questions, that would be good to have a balanced participation and to have everyone involved in the discussion. And then we have one activity of these Caring a School events, which is the breakout rooms, where we will have the chance in smaller groups to discuss together. And typically the panelists would lead this discussion or to share this discussion. And together you will find out with the people that join your room whether you develop synergies or if you can develop meaningful networks for any of the impact projects that interest you. And after that, we reconvene in the common space and we will have some closing reflections. Today, we will have, as I mentioned, a very international set of panelists. We have Dr. Geetha Plackal. She will represent the power of ocean advocacy. And she's a marine biologist and working in the area of biodiversity and ocean health. Then we hopefully have Olubankole, who will join from Nigeria, and he works on the topic of the power of independent media in international development. And then Trent Simmons, who will represent the power of impact networks. And Jorge Morais about the power of community and nature. Dr. Geetha Plackal is a marine biologist. She has a PhD from the Mahatma Gandhi University in the area of zoology and ocean health. And she is an engaged speaker and invited speaker, very visible influencer with a lot of followers, for example, on LinkedIn, and being recognized as an ambassador for the oceans and climate reality leader. She has been highlighted in several newspapers, and you can see here one of the covers of Women Fashion World Organization, where you can see a more broader overview of her activities and also the recognitions that she received. She is extremely engaged and has been invited speaker at many events and also is very present in the social media. Then we have Olubankole Daniel Olulana. He works as an international development scholar. He has a project that is called the Humanity Voice Watch, where several authors regularly report about humanity issues and are informing about new legislations or are discussing legislations that impact humans across different countries, global, international humanitarian issues that are discussed, and for whom he has contacts to several reporters and volunteers that provide well-researched articles about new legislations and related topics. Then I would like to present Trent Simmons. And for those of you that know the sport, Ultimate Frisbee, they may know the spirit of the game, where basically the different teams do not only play against each other, but they celebrate the spirit of the game in a way that afterwards the game is being discussed, and the competing teams are building a circle, talking about what was good and what was bad about this last game. Was there any foul? Was there any call? And this entire philosophy led him to be a co-founder of an NGO, which is called the 10 Million Discs, which has had different initiatives across the globe to foster peace and development in various countries through this sport that is increasing friendship. In more recent years, the engagement in spirit of the game transformed into a foundation, which is called the World Spirit of the Game Foundation, based on 4 key principles: to be personally accountable, be actively non-judgmental, be consciously introspective, and to unpack conflicts calmly. These are the core leading principles. And of course, we find here the reference to respect the spirit of the rules, which in this case is related to the spirit of the games being fair and acknowledging the contributions of everyone. And I just copied the key pillar networks. It is about women's empowerment, youth leadership, entrepreneurial support, changing corporate culture, and supporting other NGOs. And they are always looking for volunteers and people to support with their knowledge and context. Last but not least, I would like to present Jorge Morais. He is a Portuguese who has been living for many years in England and in the area of logistics and supply chain. And after some working in this area, he decided to realize a dream project of his, to move back to Portugal and to kickstart 2 projects that I wanted to highlight. On the one hand side, he is the manager of the Rural Move project, a project that fosters basically the possibility to move back to nature while working remotely. And the other is Ecovale Feridouro, which is happening in the north of Portugal, close to Aveiro, an area that was actually heavily impacted by the fires, by forest fires, and where regenerative agriculture is now being implemented in a way that you can see a much more diverse and much more rich landscape. And Jorge is involved in developing this project, where several others are involved, working together, providing workshops and providing a way to live together with nature in a community. And with this, I would like to ask the panelists, maybe in the same order, to complement what I've been saying about you. And I'm curious to hear other projects you would like to highlight.
Thank you, Jenna, for the invitation and introduce me to the group. And hello to all, and nice to meet all of you here today. And I'm Dr. Geetha Plackal from Kerala, India. And I am a marine biologist and a zoologist. And my specialization in marine benthic ecology and taxonomy. And I am very passionate in environmental conservation and biodiversity conservation, especially the ocean conservation. And I am always trying to educating, inspiring, and motivating others to protect the marine environment and the biodiversity and other biodiversity on land for a better future for humanity and all living things on Earth. We need a sustainable future, so that everyone, the humans are responsible to protect and conserve our nature and natural resources for a betterment of world. And we are all the citizens of Earth. Not this is a borderline between the nationality or language or religion or culture or any other things. And we are all citizens of Earth. We are all responsible to protect and conserve our Mother Earth or home Earth. So that just I'm doing these all works related with the environmental conservation and sustainability and climate change related activities and projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Trent, please describe a little bit in your own words, spirit of the game.
Yeah. So I'll just start with the statement that caring is cool, but action is better. And that's really where our organization came from, is just, this realization that the world is full of, several different types of people. Some are in complete denial about their privilege, their responsibility. Others are what I sometimes call woke, but not active. And then there's the ones that are out there actively trying to make a difference. But there's also, kind of a group in between those second and third people, the ones who are maybe trying to make a difference, but don't really know how. And in many cases, it would be like a gentleman that was talking to last year that says, I got high enough up the corporate ladder to realize I had leaned my ladder up against the wrong building. But it just didn't make sense for me to get down and go and start from the bottom in some other field. What I do want is some way to use my current position to make a meaningful difference. I'm no longer chasing promotions, so I have extra time. But I also know that I don't really know this field. I don't know how to have an impact as much as somebody that's been specializing in this. So that's what he was looking for, was a platform that he could attach himself to, that he could make a meaningful impact. So as you mentioned, we are always looking for additional volunteers. Right now, we're doing a campaign to recruit city chairpersons all over the globe, because we have several different ways to start a city chapter of Spirit of the Game. We've done a pretty good job of building our global leadership team, doing a lot of online events. We have our own online social media community. We're building our courses. We're also starting with retreats and conferences. And now we're actually bringing it in directly into people's cities. And it's not just cities. We also have small towns all over the world that are saying, you know what, we do need a dedicated community. And in some cases, it's just bringing together all of the other communities that are already working on all of these issues and just showing them how they can support each other better. So that's an overall summary of the organization. I could go into much greater depth, but I'll save those words for a little bit later and give the other panelists a chance to introduce themselves.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then, Jorge, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, much appreciated the invitation to be here. So actually, on the introduction, I'm coordinator of an association, Rural Move, here in Águeda. So the association is a national association that helps really people going from the urban areas to the rural areas. And I'm the coordinator here on Águeda municipality. So the project that I'm involved, the association, is a regeneration forest and landscape project called Cabeço Santo, that is started in 2006 after a great fire in 2005. So there is a project that is 17 years old already. And we work in a very degraded area of intensive monoculture of one species, is eucalyptus, and we are and also in degraded areas where there is no eucalyptus. We have what they call it with behavioral invasive behavioral is acacias. They also are from Australia, Tasmania. And we are also dealing with this, trying to regenerate the forest. We don't know if it was this a primal way that was forced before the implementation of the species. So we are trying to create an equilibrium of the ecosystem to promote biodiversity. So that's what I found when I returned from England, when I lived and worked there. And I took to myself the responsibility to help to trying to be one of the key players on this project. Meanwhile, I bought a small property and I moved to co-create a community that is now Ecoval Feridouro with other two families. Is a very small village, and we are trying to create now processes, dynamics to create to collaborate together to try to create conditions to more families, more individuals can come here to live. So yes.
Thank you very much. Very exciting. So you work on restoration of the earth, and Geetha is advocating for the restoration of the oceans. If we think about impact projects that have really the impact to help changing the stages, the pollution, plastic pollution, or other disasters related with ocean degradation, what do you think are the most powerful activities that you've witnessed happening? There are so many approaches to this topic. Here in Portugal, actually, until today was a competition happening that was called the Trash Art Competition, where people were invited to make artworks out of trash that they found on the beaches, and then basically raise awareness through very inspiring art. So this artivision approach was basically one of the things. And then, of course, there are many more, which is from preventing single plastic use, etc., etc. So if you think about, on the one hand side, your research, and then the type of activities that you engage in most from the impact perspective, where do you see the most valuable use of your knowledge to support either awareness or actually action, as we said?
Okay. Actually, the major source of marine plastic litter is two primary sources, and land-based activities and marine activities. Actually, the 80% of marine debris coming from land, from open-based dumping via rivers and canals, and also some other aquatic resources or small streams, etc. And land-based trash and urban runoff leaks to the estuaries, coastal zone, and ocean due to heavy rainfall, flood, or stormwater surge, etc. And the litter, trash, and debris from constructions and ports and marinas and commercial and industrial facilities, and overload discharges from ships and discarded fishing nets and other materials are 20% ocean-based source of litter. Okay, and these are the major sources of the marine plastic litter. So that we can do something, some solutions or some prevention to reduce or stop such marine pollutions. Actually, it have single personal or a single person can do all this, and together some big corporations are also responsible to mitigate against such issues via they can do. First of all, I wish to say about the corporations. They can use their powers and investment or opportunities or funding and finances are used for R&D in R&D for detecting new types of innovative ideas or methods or some sustainable type of plastic production. So we can use that recyclable plastics. Already produced many plastics in a world, and this almost all are dumped in everywhere. That is not recyclable, because lot of percentage are not recyclable. That is the most concerning issue. And also we know that the marine waters are always it's the possibility to spreading the plastics everywhere. And it will take time to decompose. If reached in ocean, it will take time to time for decomposition. So that it will remain in the oceans, and it may be ingested by the marine animals or organisms and everything. And also the decomposed plastics are converted into microplastics or mesoplastics or nanoplastics that are the smallest particle or molecules of plastics that may be also reached in marine animals or organisms, and it may reach in humans by consumption of marine fish resources or some food, etc. And mainly the mollusks and crustacean types of organisms contains more plastics in their body, and if we consume that organisms, it will reach in our body and it will make many issues for our health also. And we need to reduce the use of the single-use plastics, and we need to choose the type of plastics for our daily life, and it may be good to reduce the production and the consumption or the dump in such plastics in everywhere in a land or in an ocean or a beach, etc. So that the corporations are also responsible to need to take actions to invent new ideas or innovative technologies or such, or bioplastics or something like that. This will be helpful to reduce or stop the marine pollution, marine plastic pollution, or in a plastic pollution on land. It will be if it is not, or if we will not take action, it will definitely affect the whole biodiversity and humans.
Thank you very much. As marine biologist, where do you find like the next step of engagement? Is it in awareness building and knowledge transmission, or is it in more in advocating with maybe impact networks such as, well, looking at Trent, or to try to reach politicians?
And we need to approach the government. Strict laws and rules or regulations need to be implemented in every countries and every places on earth. Stop one-time use of plastics and reduce plastic production and reuse or recycling, and stop unwanted purchase of plastic materials, and stop use of microbeads containing cosmetics, and a proper way of waste disposal, and use biodegradable plastics, and use cloth bags instead of plastic bags, and use glass or steel bottles instead of plastic bottles. Support innovative technology and research for cleaning the ocean, planets, and we need to approach government for funding and investment, or some big corporations. And finally, awareness and education is very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I see Olubankole just connected. If you can shortly introduce yourself and your project, that would be fantastic.
All right, my name is Olulana Olubankole Daniel. I'm a development, governance, management, and communication specialist. I'm passionate about international development generally and the role of governance, management, and communication in the mix. Yeah. So to that end, I'm active along the advocacy, research, academics, and journalism circuit.
I presented shortly the Humanity Voice Watch project of yours, which
yes,
is
I run the I founded with a team of like minds. I founded the Humanity Voice Watch project. Of course, I was passionate about that. That was born out of my passion for the cause of humanity, the welfare, the well-being of humanity. We started out as the humanitarian voice, because we saw a lot of challenges such as forced displacement, all sorts of war victims and all sorts of vulnerable populations in the general populace of the human society. And we saw how that was under promoted in the mainstream media, what you call boutique journalism. So we saw the need for a particular specialized media outfit to focus on such concerns in human society. So we ran with the name the humanitarian voice. All right. However, after a while, we saw that the causes, what results in the effects we see, the causes, the root causes of such issues, such problems, were to be found in actual policy issues, such as social policy, economic policy, health policy. The gaps there that do not cater for some population demographics, especially underserved populations due to economic inequality and other challenges of such population demographics need to be addressed. That was what informed us change of name from the humanitarian voice to Humanity Voice Watch. All right. Now we wanted to address not just the effects, but the policy issues. So the way you have Nat Geo Wild address the environment, the way you have Super Sports focus on sports, we are focused on development, communication, and journalism, development affairs, human-centered development, the human-centered approach to development. Because ultimately, development is supposed to serve human well-being and human societal advancement. All right, so it was to this end that we floated that. And then we run as a social enterprise because most of the population demographics we try to include in policy narratives as are to be found in the articles, critical articles we publish, that evaluate policy strategies, look at what has been done, measuring what has been done and what is left undone, and what should then be done to fill such gaps. All right, so that's what informed Humanity Voice Watch. In fact, we had to register an NGO called Foundation for Development Communication because our country does not allow us to get registered as, does not allow a media organization to get registered as an NGO, as a non-profit. So what we did was we registered an NGO side by side with Humanity Voice Watch, which we registered according to what framework our country prefers, which is a private limited liability company limited by shares. However, we have the board of trustees of the NGO called Foundation for Development Communication sign a document that indicates that the share capital they hold will be held in trust for the organization in line with our goals to run as a social enterprise, especially a non-profit sharing social enterprise. This is because ultimately when you want to address development issues, development policy issues, that is policy affairs from a development focused approach, you would have to go critical, you would have to go inclusive, comprehensive. You will have to talk to aspects that you probably might not hear on a Richard Quest Means Business CNN broadcast. He will talk about business journalism, for instance, business and economics. However, he will not touch on such points as tax havens, as multinationals who are escaping tax more and more to the point that they are even escaping their key corporate social responsibility in places like Ogoniland in the Niger Delta, where the land now begs for a lot of farmlands, waterways have been terribly polluted by oil spillage, and nothing has been done for so many years. The human rights activist who fought for that as a lawyer, Mr. Ken Sarowiwa, was hanged, was killed under one of the military junta regimes of the Nigerian political administrations. So where am I going? I'm trying to say that when you want to do development, communication, journalism, you ultimately have to run as a social enterprise and not a commercial enterprise. you know. Else, most of the people who are money bags, who have the huge sums of money to be big investors, deep pocket investors, are likely to have you twist, edit, adjust some of your policies, some of your values, core values as an organization, some of your objectives. In fact, interestingly, let me tell you one interesting example. I had a friend who used to be a very serious moralist back in my undergraduate days. And then we got to meet. He was my senior colleague by 2 years, you know, compared to, I was 2 years younger, a junior. And then we got to meet at a particular mall, you know, and then we ran into one another, you know, to start with. And then he said, "Oh, very good to meet you. It's been a long time that we've discussed. Can we meet, you know, up at a particular time of the following week so that we catch up on a lot of things?" When we met up, we talked. He told me about, you know, things that he has been able to get done over the years, achieve, and I shared mine as well. Now, it got to the point where I told him about Humanity Voice Watch. He liked it. He found it nice. He loved all that it entails. However, he wanted us to edit certain aspects of it, and he was ready to bring in big money, you know, as a deep pocket investor. He then began to tell me things like, "We would not pay tax except a gun is put to our throat," because he has all the big names who can protect us, you know, not to pay that. Of course, he works with some big deep pocket investors in the Nigerian space who do not pay tax, you know. So, someone, for instance, called Dele Olojede, he was the first Pulitzer Prize winner in journalism from Africa. He lives in South Africa. When he ran a watershed journalism project on revealing how one of the leading telecommunications firms had not paid tax for God knows how long. The firm sent a lot of intermediaries to tell him to please drop that news piece. However, he said he would only be able to grant them an opportunity to tell their own side of the tale. You know, that's what journalism ethics involves. You know, you ensure that all actors have a fair opportunity to tell their own side of the tale. Now, that did not please that firm. And so afterwards, after he published the particular article, the firm pulled back all its adverts and told all its business allies to do same. Otherwise, it will not do business with them anymore. And then they also sent underground intermediaries to buy up many of the newspapers of this particular news outfit and confiscate them, you know, buy them up as if they are huge wholesalers, but not ultimately distribute them to or sell them to retailers so that retailers can then sell to end users. Okay, when Dele Olojede got wind of that, then he had to run, take a run at some point out of the country because he was attacked on all fronts at some point. So where am I headed? It's always better to run any development-centered concern, whether it's a media outfit or it's an NGO that addresses just one particular issue or one or two or three. It's always good to run such as a non-profit social enterprise.
Thank you so much. I believe in the network of Trent, there are, first, I think the Spirit of the Game is also an NGO, and he has been supporting various impact projects through the network to develop their strategies. And I think the network, from some of the sessions that I witnessed, gives feedback on, how to evaluate opportunities of impact, taking into account maybe the form of the organization.
Oh yeah, so that's basically our one of our favorite words is hybrid, hybrid business modeling, because on the one hand You have lots of for-profit and profitable organizations that kind of just think, oh, it's not our responsibility. And again, you have a lot of small business owners that they never, ever had a class, even if they have an MBA, in how to actually have an impact with their business. So they pretty much limit themselves to donations. Maybe once a year, they get their employees together and go out and do some type of community service project, and they call it good. Like, as long as they've done a little bit more than their competitors, they pat themselves on the back and think they've made a difference. Then on the other side, you have a lot of nonprofits that perpetually operate in what we call beggar mode. They're always saying, hey, look at the good work that we're doing. Please give us some money so we can do more of it. And there's no business plan essentially in place to make themselves financially self-sustainable. It's really based on give us money this year, give us money next year, give us money 2 years, 3, 10, 5, 25 years from now. You have to keep giving us money because we're a nonprofit. And they think that that means that they're not allowed to make any type of profit. And the reality is nonprofit simply means that profits that you make cannot go into your own personal pocket. And a lot of countries also get this wrong, particularly like in the EU, it seems like they've decided that they need to put some restrictions on their nonprofits and how they generate revenue. Other countries like Switzerland, the US, and quite a few, they've kind of realized that yeah, if a nonprofit comes up with some innovative way to generate revenue without begging, that's generally going to be better for all people involved because it is financially sustainable. So a lot of our work is on helping nonprofits to, as one of our people gets off their addiction to grants and private donations. And one of the ways that we always emphasize is your staff most likely has saleable skills. They can provide some type of coaching or consulting service to your community that your community can go ahead and pay you. It's totally fine just because you're running a nonprofit to charge something for your services if they're valuable. And most of the time they are valuable, and many times they're even more valuable because they have that understanding of what the actual consequences are of the business decisions. So a lot of our work, is really bridging those gaps in thinking, helping the for-profit business owners to become more impactful, be more impact-oriented, helping the nonprofits to be more business-oriented and more financially sustainable in the long term, but then also helping the ones that already have this part figured out how to tell their story better, how to form partnerships, how to create a community, so that anybody who is using your service can become an ambassador. And that's one of the things that we really emphasize to small business owners is right now, if you're acting like a normal business, you have no access to volunteers. Nobody's going to come volunteer for your normal business to help you make money if that's your only purpose. So that's a brief summary of kind of our approach to this this picture. And in the long run, our actual goal as an organization is to eliminate the term social entrepreneurship and impact entrepreneurship by making it redundant. That in our vision of the future, there should be no place for anybody to start a business whose only goal is to make money. We don't need any more businesses like that. The world, we have way too many of them. We need to make the ones that refuse to get on board and recognize their privilege. We need to make them extinct. We need to drive them out of business by supporting the ones who do care. So that's the final piece of this puzzle. Well, there's lots of other pieces, but the other critical part of this puzzle is the consumers. We need conscious consumers. We need consumers who are going to take the time to pay attention to what companies are, but are also going to give feedback to the small businesses that you support and say, in the past, I supported you just because you were a small business, and that's good. I try to prefer, support small businesses over big corporations as much as possible. But in the future, you're going to have to up your stakes. You're going to have to not just be a small business, but be an impactful small business. And you better get this figured out, because if you don't, within a few years, somebody's going to come along offering a similar enough product who has taken the time to figure out how to also have an impact. And I'm going to take my business to them. It's not because I don't like you personally, but that's just the reality. That is my priorities as a consumer. And as long as we can't say that, we can't really expect the businesses to listen. So that's the challenge I have for everybody here in this room. Be a more conscious consumer, but not just in the passive sense of saying, oh, I'm going to try to choose the least bad company. Get active. Go and talk to the business owners that you're supporting with your financial purchases and say, I want to keep supporting you well into the future, but I need you to every year become more impactful. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take my dollars somewhere else, or I'm not going to be able to look at myself in the mirror, no matter how much I might like you as a person.
Thank you very much. How much does this resonate with you, George, and your two projects? You probably thought also about the type of organization you would form, and I see you're offering now workshops and courses and visits to this regenerated land. So part of the consultancies are something that you also realize and the projects you are engaged in.
Yes, we try to be less consumers and more producers in terms of our impact of the previous panelists were saying. So we're trying to live with less, not in a scarcity way. Actually, we live in much abundance as nature provides everything for free. We just try to help the systems, the processes to produce more. We are still living in abundance through what their ancestors or the previous inhabitants were growing here. There's many trees, there are many bushes, and nature provides very much as here on the ecosystem. When you just try to engage on the process and even about the pests and the challenges that we have for the produce that we consume as vegetables and fruits, the majority, as I am vegetarian. We just trying to promote the ecosystem. That's why the forests are very important, because they create the ecosystem and the conditions to have wildlife. So since the small ones to the big ones, so they also help, to balance the ecosystem that provide us our substance. So that's my my saying.
Thank you very much. Before we move to breakout rooms, I'd like to ask the audience if you have questions.
I have a quick question.
Sarah, yes, please go ahead.
And so my question had to do with, in terms of like your share and your perspective of orienting some of this change work, and it's stratified, right, in terms of multiple perspectives, the consumer, the businesses, and the nonprofits in terms of their sustainability and integration into a new model. But there's going to be resistance. So like, where's the niche? What's the argument that, I guess this is a multi-part question, that like convinces corporate structures to put life, as value over the dollar, or say escapist structures that are really, really happy to do a minimal type of engagement that's kind of a micro climate of care, but isn't necessarily has this outreach that's going to be touching base on global conditioning and like what are we normalizing and such. So
I think I get the gist. If I don't answer the question, I do apologize. But yeah, I mean, it really comes down to kind of, two different main groups. I mean, in theory, there's a third group, which would be the investors. I'm pretty dubious about the potential for investors to really change a corporate culture on a wholesale level. There's specific examples that have worked with activist investing, but for the most part, the entire ESG investing into the stock market is really just putting money into the least bad companies. because there aren't really that many good ones. So really, it kind of comes down to, again, the consumers and the employees themselves. And that's actually one of the niches that we are developing with our career transition platform. Is we're actively looking right now for people that are willing to leave their corporate job because of the lack of impact or the lack of purpose or just the lack of overall conscience of that company, or the ones who are at least thinking about it, because we want to reach them before they quit. And we want to just say, time out. Before you leave that position, let's just think about something called leverage. If you're willing to quit your job because of the company is not aligned with your values, you have leverage right now. You have leverage that disappears the moment you quit. But if you're willing to quit, you can go to your bosses and say, I am willing to quit this job because either lack of purpose or I do not agree with these things. But you have to back it up. You have to give them an or else. If you go to them and say, the only way I am willing to stay in this position is either if the company does X, Y, Z, or at least begins the process, because you can't expect things to happen overnight, but you give them something that is reasonable. And then if they reject it, they're an unreasonable organization and there's no hope. But you have to start with something reasonable. Or you say to them, I personally want to do something with some of my time at this company that's going to take us in that direction. I realize it's going to be a process, but this is my make it or break it. And again, if your skill level is not high enough yet, particularly for young people, that the company doesn't really care if you walk out the door, yeah, that's only a little bit of leverage. But again, if you're a young person, sometimes you can multiply your leverage by finding your allies within the company and you create the movement. Again, it really depends on the size of the company, how practical that is. But overall, that's part of what we are trying to do on a case-by-case basis. And we have a 5-step journey for any individual who's in that position. And we tell them, just be warned, this is probably going to be a 5-year process, because no matter how great your initiative is and how reasonable and how meaningful and how actually custom tailored to that organization, they're still going to say no the first time. That's just the way it is. That's just how corporate culture functions, because otherwise, most of these problems, they wouldn't be as bad. But if you just accept that yes, I'm going to keep drudging away for 9 months until that second time around. If you say, I'm going to give them 2 tries, because if I go to them once with a reasonable proposal and they say no, whatever, they come up with whatever justification, that's usually what's going to happen. But if you can do that, you retailor it and you adjust all of their objections and you come back to them the second time and they say no, okay, you know it. You've invested your time, you've given it your shot, and you can quit. Ideally as public as possible, and tell everybody that you know why you're leaving that organization. Again, that part's optional. That's the bonus if you're in a position to do that without destroying your own career, like most whistleblowers do. So that's something else that's drastically needed, is we need a global coalition of organizations that say, we want whistleblowers. Come work for us. If you blew the whistle and you got fired because you blew the whistle, you're exactly the kind of person we want. Because a company that hires whistleblowers is saying to the entire world, we have nothing to hide. We want those types of people. Unfortunately, there's very few organizations that are actually engaging their brain and thinking that far ahead. So I hope that answers your question. I know it was a multi-part question and a multi-part answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
I'm loving this this panel, this group of panelists. There's so much that's really interesting. So, Dr. Geetha, I'll just drop the questions for each of you, and then I'll just go back on mute. I'm really interested to hear from you about any innovations. I'm hearing scattered reports of innovations with biodegradable plastics. I think you mentioned that, and I had an interview recently with an environmentalist who talked about reverse plasticking, so plastic waste to oil and things like that. So I'd love to hear from you about developments on that front to deal with this colossal amount of plastic that's in the sea. And then Olu, thank you for your insights. It was really good to hear from you about what you had to say about the independent media. As someone who's just starting out with a very small interview series, I'm already noticing algorithms responding to the various sort of levels of risk in my content and the levels of controversy. So it'd be interesting to hear anything you have to say there on algorithms and censorship. And then the last thing the last thought, Trent, it was lovely to hear from you about your conscious consumers. I'd love to hear from you what the data says. So people say that they want to spend with conscious brands. Does the data bear out that they're actually voting with their wallets and actually spending when it comes to the crunch? So these are my questions for everybody. And then Jorg, I'm afraid I don't have a question for you just yet. Maybe someone else will. Thank you.
My answer is super short, so I can just say sort of. Not as nearly as much as they say they would, but again,
Right.
it's 10 years ahead of where it was. You know, I mean, we're light years ahead of where we were 10 years ago. So progress is steady. Long ways to go, though.
Some work needed there, then maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe another question.
Yeah.
I'm Jose Carlos. I have a question very fast for Jorge Morais. First thing, congratulations for your project. What, in your case, it was the first step to start this project? The first thing that you need to make to start your project?
Yeah, I think it was courage. I think we need to go to the adventure of the unknown. That's why we are most attached to our comforts and to what is safe. Sometimes is that is misleading us, is an illusion. So we just need to have the courage to take a strong determination, put a strong intention for things to happen, and that's more important. Our capabilities, our potential as a human beings, as I'm working with nature, I'm working with ecosystems, but I work in myself as we are part of nature. So this also is a path that I've chosen that I think is very important, or else as we are co-creators of this reality or this dimension or this experience. So we just need to start with ourselves first, and then plan also ahead. Some things that usually here in the south of Europe we don't think much ahead long term. So make the planning and then trying to go to the adventure. The things are not straightforward, are not easy, but if you are putting with your heart, you know, you're putting yourself now to for a better good. I think the things happen. That's my saying.
Okay,
Thank you
thanks.
very much. Very interesting. There were some questions, not answers, but I will simply put you together in a breakout room and maybe you can discuss 7 minutes and then we reconvene and share the main outcomes of this breakout rooms, which is typically a time where we think about what was said, what we can do also together. There are several participants that have not yet shared what they may be doing, but typically at Caring is Cool, each of you works on some impact project or has something to contribute. So I'm curious what is going to happen. So
Maybe I will start, maybe because I spoke with Jorge before about this question. Two fast questions. You leave your work before, you are not working remotely. It was a change of life, or we are still maintaining some job remote in your
It was a change of life, yes. So I moved to the UK, to the United Kingdom in 2008. But I was a different person. I was looking, as most of immigrants go for, for to trying to fulfill their dreams, their expectations, to earn money and to build a career. But then there, I found out I had it. I had a career. I made some savings and I had money, but I was not happy. I was not fulfilled. So, and then I found out how the other things were happening in the world that I'm living, in the world that was shown to me, that I found out there was something different. I found out permaculture. I was also a social activist with the Zeitgeist movement, knowing about how the systems, our society, how money is created based in death. So everything trying to pull me, and realizing and have a consciousness about how my part on the society as I was grown up, as I was put through. So I decided what was different, the ways of living. But still, my background is from a rural area. I'm a grandson of farmers from my father's side. So I just had the knowledge. I was living in very close to central London, and I decided it was not sustainable, the way of living. So I thought to myself, looking in 2012 to return to Portugal, trying to have some guidance. But in the end, I just went into the adventure. I was not aware. It was not something that I was really prepared. But I know what I don't want it to do, is continue to work in a corporate world, to be a slave for a salary. So I decided to come to the venture and look for the project. And I found Cabeça Santo project. There is a forestation project. And I bought a small house in this Feridoro small village. And then the things happen. And and I think it was the best thing that I've done in my life.
Okay.
Nice. So George, are you working with forests mostly locally there in where you are in Portugal, or?
Yes, it's conservation. So this is not the productive forest way of living. Of course, conservation, we are looking for supports always of the municipality, of the members of our association. But myself, I have a project here as I'm renovating a few buildings, and I'm trying to create conditions, accommodations to receive tourists and volunteers, to have some income. But I'm still living the majority from my savings that I've done. Yes, but I'm still living in abundance, as I designed the house that I'm living ecological, with many features that I don't have very fixed values to pay every month. So I'm very, very fortunate and very grateful for the conditions that I am, and many others are doing. Many, I follow the movement of many people from America, from many ways in Europe and many other countries that are coming, and they are looking for the same way of living and the same aspects of living in the rural area in Portugal.
Thank you very much. Ulu, how does this sound to you? I mean, the situation in Nigeria, everything is so different. You have very different fights to fight, let's say, or how does the story of Jorge resonate with your situation?
I'm inspired by his idea and how he has painstakingly brought it to life, how he has also been able to live within, a rather conservative means, so that he can carry on by and by to scale. And yes, I must say that we share some similarities in some areas, you know, as and then some unique differences. I think that's my take. I think that he's up to something excellent, brilliant. Yeah.
I see Isaiah joined us. Isaiah?
Yeah, hello. I'm Keshoe Isaiah from Kenya. From the I'm a climate activist and also indigenous advocate from the Maasai community here in Kenya.
Thank you very much for joining.
Yeah, nice to be here. And also thank you, my friend Jeff, for inviting me to this beautiful session.
I have been in Kenya many years ago, so this was still a visit together with my family.
Thank you. Did you visit Masai Mara, Kenya?
Yes, I was visiting there, yes, and I yeah, also was in the area of the Maasai, yes.
Yeah, welcome back again. It's a beautiful place to be.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
very
me.
long time ago.
Yeah, you should come back again. It's a nice place to be. And also, yeah, the Maasai people are the indigenous community that's really taking care of the biodiversity and also suffering from the devastating impacts of climate change. So that's why I rose up to be a voice for my community, because it's few people that maybe take the challenge of maybe amplifying the voices for the community and also making sure that the world leaders understand this climate justice thing and also what the people are really going through, despite of them having the stewardship in wildlife conservation, but really them being pastoralists, they're really going through a lot concerning climate crisis. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I will speak in the larger room about a climate cause that is being discussed at the European Court of Human Rights, which was put forward by 6 Portuguese young children and young people. At the moment, now none of them is a child anymore because the court took a few years to move forward. But it is very interesting, very important and historic moment that these young people are able to basically take 32 countries to court for their climate inaction. And I don't know if this is also an avenue that you will try with in your activism to go to and count, holding governments or and companies and others accountable for the damage being done. I will have to close these breakout rooms because we're a bit over time, and we will reconvene with everyone. I think we are all back to the main stage. From the room with Dr. Geetha and Trent, who would like to update on your main discussion points? If you can shortly summarize, maybe the two of you, like what happened.
Karen is very depressed because Geetha does not have any solutions to a big problem that basically humanity is poisoning itself. And I told her, well, the solution is we kill ourselves off. But I think some of us in the room are trying to prevent that happening. But we really just talked about how insane it is, the pervasive use of plastics in clothing and cosmetics and almost everywhere. We heard more about Geetha's work to clean this up, as well as some innovative technologies for building materials that uses plastic, even if it's not recyclable. You can still convert it into something that's not going to break down. at least anytime soon. And now there's indigenous communities building buildings as well as urban hospitals in the first world using this plastic as a new form of construction. So I think the takeaway from that is that recycling can mean a few different things, and we just really need to apply our brains to this, and everybody needs to get involved and look for some way to make a difference.
Thank you so much. And from the other breakout room, maybe Jorge or Olubankole can shortly summarize what happened there.
I've just shared a bit of my experience of this return to the rural area, return to Portugal, about what was the decision making and all the process that I shared with one of the Jose that made the question. Olubankole can speak.
Okay. Generally, I think that I've been inspired by especially George's story, and that resonates with some of what I think I believe in, and what drives me, touching, growing or founding and growing Humanity Voice Watch. Because human well-being is intricately connected to environmental well-being, and you really have to see how societies can run on that development policy oriented approach. However, what we have right now is not what it should be, because obviously, as George said, business, the greed for profit, before people and planet, is really making matters go from bad to worse. And so we need the need for more and more social activists who are passionate about the cause of human well-being and human societal development, will do us a world of good, to really turn things around as much as possible. Because, of course, business wasn't that powerful before you had feudalism. That's the lords, the economic system that was about land ownership and agrarian stroke agribusiness oriented. It was until 1648 when you had what you now call the capitalist class becomes what they are today, become so strong, and then that led to some decades of war between the capitalist class and the feudal lords, to birth what we have today as the societal formation called capitalism. So if we're also that, if we form a vanguard, if we're that passionate, if we're that selfless about what it is that we want to achieve, climate justice, all that, makes for human well-being and advancement, then it will be a possibility, for us. Yeah. So that's my take.
I think these are excellent words to finish this meeting. Thank you for everyone that contributed to the active discussion. It was fantastic to have you there. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye all. Jeff, Karen, and Trent, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See you again.
Bye.
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 Bye.